as a coalition and as leaders who do not respect the law. We do respect the law.
Okay, is CORD attempting a power grab? The other day, the president spoke very angrily. He said, those who think they are going to get, power through other means, we are going to be here, government is in charge. And there have been barbs at CORD, at Raila, that there seems to be something going on. Are you trying to grab power that you lost through the elections?
CORD will grab power through the ballot and through no other means. That's why after the disputed election of 2013, we went to court. And after the court decision, what did our team captain say? We don't agree with what the court has said, but we respect it. And we ended it. We ended it there. That did not mean, and will never mean, that as a leadership, we do not engage the public, we do not engage the government, we don't point out things that are important. That's why we have even been talking about the need to have a referendum. Why are we talking about a referendum and not a people's revolution? We're talking about a referendum because we want Kenyans to be given an opportunity to make an informed legal choice.
Or it could be that you want to make Kenya ungovernable and to keep us, constantly politicking.
Let me tell you, Udwak, if you go to a country like the state of Tasmania in Australia, they have, or Switzerland, they have virtually a referendum every other month. That doesn't make the country ungovernable. A referendum is not a contest to elect individuals. It's a contest to vote for an idea. We are saying we can see what is happening. In a budget of 1.6 trillion, you want to give the counties 210 billion. In a situation where we know very well what we're doing with CDF, we announced that we have, by signing a CDF amendment bill, we have increased allocation of funds to the counties by 40%, which is not true. We want devolution to work. We want marginalization, exclusion, and underdevelopment in the counties to come to an end at some point. Give them resources.
The question is,
we are saying, and we have said this very loudly, David, that we don't want allocation of resources to the counties to be based on discretion and goodwill. We want it to be ring-fenced and protected by the Constitution, so that at the end of the day, when a county like Marsabit or Turkana or Kwale expects money, they get their just defined resources. But when we leave it to the deputy president to stand up and say, "Ata tutaongeza mpaka 40%," that is not how to run a country.
The argument has been that it is still too early, there's so much chaos even in the establishment of the county governments, that capacity to actually manage those resources is missing. And this is only the first budget. Which is why it
was staggered.
This is only the first budget. The money hasn't even gone to those guys to see whether they can actually manage it.
David.
Wouldn't we say the second year we saw the last budget and how much it could provide for? Now in the subsequent budgets, the third, fourth year, we do a referendum to actually, if not a referendum, push the government to peg the
problem,
budget
David,
40%.
With discretionary behavior in politics is that you may even now decide at some point that because the certain county is the home of a certain politician I don't like, give it less money. We don't want those discretions. We want a situation where, who says capacity is lacking? The national government has been having structures across the country. If you are talking of making roads in Turkana, the national government had the provincial engineers, the district engineers, the divisional engineers, who can be deployed to give capacity to the county government. We cannot, in the pretext of capacity, sit back and say, fine, we'll address the issue of water and adequacy of funding when capacity is built. We'll address the issue of roads and the adequacy of funding when capacity is built. In the meantime, wananchi are suffering. We want to see a properly defined and shared in adequate terms resources going to the county. Remember, David, remember, David, that there are counties in this country that have never seen an inch of tarmac road. You can't tell me
but these are the
that
same
we have to wait,
counties that also could not prepare proper budgets in spite of the training that they were given.
These counties, Woodwork, have started. The person or the group to blame for inadequate preparation of budgets is not even the counties. There's an organ called Transitional Authority that was deployed legally to help the takeoff of counties. They are not doing their job right.
It is not that they're not doing it.
They are not doing their job
right.
The
timelines
provided. And it could be a deliberate attempt to fail the takeoff of devolution so that we say, you see, we told you, let's go back to the centrist system and manage things from Nairobi.
Jubilee politicians have been
Code will continue saying this is not correct.
The challenge from Jubilee is that you, in your manifesto, Code manifesto, does not give the percentage. You didn't even discuss the matter in your manifesto.
What is a manifesto? A manifesto is a dynamic document. You prepare a manifesto, you get into government, and you continue improving on it. The manifesto is not cast in stone.
The challenge is if you are in government, if you are in government, those things will not be rising.
The foundation of the philosophy in Code is devolution and nothing else. Devolution, devolution, devolution. Then other things will follow.
All right, so are you saying...
Whether we were in the opposition as we are, or we were in government, we would still have increased the allocations of funds.
You know, the problem, Mheshimiwa, is that those who may sympathize with your standpoint that you need more money devolved to the counties, but they may have an issue with the timing of this move because things are still in such flux. Arrangement, preparation, setup, establishment. You want to load the country with a referendum in that confusion. Government hasn't even taken off. 6 months. You want a...
so you're politicking, essentially.
So they say these guys are just politicking.
Right. You repair your house when it leaks, not when it's right. And it's obvious that we have taken off in the wrong direction on devolution.
When did you change?
Look at Nairobi, for example. Nairobi has been allocated 9 billion Kenya shillings for this financial year. 6.3 billion is going to the wage bill. How is the government of Nairobi going to give development to the many and ever-increasing residents of this county? And it's replicated all over. The largest chunk of the little money being given to the counties is the wage bill. And we are saying, and I'm sure you would say the same, that really if it is managing the wage bill and the payroll, you can even do it from Nairobi. You don't have to send the money to the county to pay salaries. You can do it from here. We want to see, after 5 years, a governor stands up and says, look, for the last 5 years as the governor of Kiambu, I've done the following, the following, the following, the following. People will laugh at you if you say, for the last 5 years, I've efficiently paid salaries of servants in my county. That is expected anyway. People want development.
So there's no going back on the referendum?
On the referendum?
Is that what CORD is saying, despite the
tyranny of numbers?
There is no tyranny of numbers in terms of referendum. You can even see, first, in terms of counties, 24 out of 47 are governed by CORD. We have champions of the referendum, like Governor Isaac Ruto, and many others who are Jubilee. It is not a question now of whether CORD is being discordant and being destructive. It's a question of what is in the best interest of the people of this country.
When did you change your agenda of changing the kind of the type of elections for the president? You had previously said we want parliamentary system.
To begin with,
why did you change?
To begin with, you did not hear me as Wetangula.
Your leader did.
Number two,
one of the captains.
Number two,
yes.
This is a matter that came up in a rally in Homa Bay, and it picked some momentum. But we sat as a leadership and said, no, this is not the issue.
You backtracked because you tried to tag that onto the referendum. There was a backlash against it. You had bipartisan support for the referendum, and you lost that when you came up with this parliamentary system idea.
that CORD has sat down as a leadership and made a decision that we are pursuing a referendum issue to change the electoral system.
We heard CORD luminaries saying
it was something that was said in a rally, and you have since not had...
And it gained traction from CORD luminaries.
You have since not had even the luminary you are talking about, the Prime Minister Raila Odinga, talk about it, because we have agreed and said what is important today, even if the issue of the electoral structures may be relevant, is how to strengthen and entrench devolution to levels where it makes sense to the public.
Okay, we're running out of time. We're just on 4 minutes. Yes, David?
On that matter of the referendum,
yes.
So we take it from you at this point that there is no looking back. A referendum is going to happen.
A referendum is going to happen, but you know...
On devolution and not on
devolution
and
strengthening
system.
the Senate.
Yes,
only those two issues.
Okay.
Right. Nothing else.
Moving on to the next question then, when is this expected to happen in the time frames?
If you look at the Constitution and the election law, and looking at even the circumstances, the earliest you can go through this process is probably 10 months from today, to be realistic, or at least within 10 months. Remember that we have one electoral commission. We have a law requiring that all petitions must be concluded in 6 months, which 6th month is ending at the end of this month. We have a law that requires that where by-elections are ordered must be done within 90 days. We expect then also to take that into account. And thereafter, we have carte blanche.
Okay.
Now, your party has poked holes into the Electoral Commission. You are very unhappy with them, and in fact want them disbanded. So who will do the referendum?
We participated in the by-election in Makueni, conducted by the same Electoral Commission.
But you have said it's terrible.
I can tell you that we participated, and we're going to participate in the by-election.
So you now do you have confidence in the Electoral Commission?
Look, don't put words in my mouth, Mtegi. I am saying we participated
right,
in
you've answered
Makueni.
the question.
We're going to participate in Matungulu and Kibwezi.
I very quickly want to go into some of our viewers' comments. Why is Bwana Wetangula, this comes from Sami in Bungoma, playing the angel? And every Kenyan knows what he did when he was the foreign minister. I'm talking about the Kenyan embassy in Japan scandal, which is still fresh in our minds. Now, you've addressed this.
We have discussed that many times
previously.
before. I don't
but for the benefit of people like Sami Muchere, who have not been party to that.
I'm sure he knows and is asking the question with mischief, because I've said before that my conscience is much clearer on that issue perhaps than any other issue. And I need not continue saying the same about it. I've said it 3 times on Cheche. You remember last time you even stopped Mutegi from pursuing that line which we had dealt with before.
The first time you came on Cheche.
Yes.
Okay, you mentioned...
And if that gentleman is from Bungoma, tell him to even look me up in Bungoma at my residence. I'll give him 2 hours to explain to him if he wishes to.
Oh, he's probably heard you.
Yes.
You've been talking about CORD and its... attempts to represent ordinary folk. Yes. And so to take you back to the ICC, because that's where we started,
yes.
and you talked a lot about justice for the victims.
Yes.
Now we've seen President Uhuru Kenyatta, speaking to people in camps. Yeah. We haven't necessarily seen Raila Odinga, since he lost the election, go out, engage with IDPs, engage with people who the opposition would claim to be representing.
That is not wholly true. You know, the IDPs in camps and the IDPs living in villages. We have been going around the country talking to people and talking about IDPs.
I know you've talked about IDPs, but you've not spoken to them. You haven't engaged with them.
We have talked to IDPs in some parts of the country.
Right?
Yes.
Where?
Trans-Nzoia, we have talked to the IDPs in Trans-Nzoia, we've talked to them.
When was that?
The IDPs, including 3 weeks ago when we were in Trans-Nzoia. The IDPs in Bungoma, I engaged them, I talked to them. It doesn't have to be the 3 of us.
No, I'm talking about CORD as a strategy, because we hear from you at funerals. Yes. Say, for instance, the funeral that took place at Kisii, where you had the, bad behavior. The funeral at Homo Bay, where this parliamentary...
Not necessarily bad behavior, but reactions from the public.
Reactions, spontaneous reactions.
Yes.
And you think that those reactions are fine to...
I'm not saying it's fine, but I wouldn't classify it as bad behavior because that's passing an unfair judgment on the public. The public have a right to react in the manner they react on certain issues under certain circumstances.
But of course, the accusation was that they were instigated, they were encouraged to behave like that, to boo.
Nobody knew, by the way, nobody
really?
knew that Raila was going to that funeral until he arrived there. So to say that it was instigated is to look for excuses.
Okay,
and like
fine.
I always say, when we have problems, it's better to look for solutions than to look for who to blame.
Right. So
because it
going back to
doesn't
the
help.
point then, because we hear about CORD making pronouncements at funerals, but we don't necessarily hear about CORD engaging with IDPs. You say that you visited them, but we don't hear about that.
You know, the problem with this country is that if I visit you and there's no camera, then I've not visited you. That is not how we want to run our country. We can still visit you without cameras. And I can assure you that we have been talking about justice for IDPs, resettlement of IDPs, and getting rid of camps in a fair and just manner so that our people don't live in camps. But remember, CORD as an opposition cannot have resources to go and give goodies to IDPs. We can only speak for them, which we constantly do.
The wider issue is just in terms of strategy, because we hear about you guys traveling to the US, for instance. We hear about retreats in Naivasha or Mombasa, but we don't necessarily hear about, say, listening tours, engaging with common folk to find out what the issues are, going and speaking to, say, women who cannot afford to pay their maternity fees. So in terms of strategy, it does seem as if the cameras follow you, or you engage the cameras
Friday,
when you're doing
example,
high-profile events. But in terms of your strategy, you haven't quite worked in engaging with ordinary people.
Last Friday, for example, Raila and I traveled to Samburu. We spent a full day there, sat with people, listened to them, women, youths, and so on. Obviously, the cameras were not there to beam on what we were discussing.
Did you ask for the cameras?
The cameras were there, but we didn't find it necessary for them to beam on us talking to old folks there, to youths, we visited a school, and we did many things there and came back.
So in terms of your media strategy, then, do you not think that that is useful?
It is a question of what we really want to achieve. You do not necessarily achieve a lot simply because you have been photographed. You achieve because you have talked to the people who matter.
But the
and
perception,
we do talk to people
right,
who
but the
matter.
perception is that you're not.
I know perceptions are very important
Yes.
in politics. But I'm sure if you talked to our leadership and our many, many followers, you'll get a different view.
David has been wanting to come in.
No, it's a totally different subject.
Yes.
You know,
You want to carry on the same...
You wanted to say something regarding
I
that.
want a
Okay.
different subject.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
I
We're
wanted
out
just
of
to,
time,
you
though.
started by sending condolences for the, to the family of the
Peter Wanyonyi,
Peter
the lawyer.
Wanyonyi.
Onyonyi Wanyama,
Yes.
who is a friend of mine, a lawyer who I've known. And
He's
of
my
course,
friend too.
This matter, would you just put it in the context? I mean, of course, accusations are already flying. I mean, you say, of course, he represented Skari Kombo in the
That's
petition
correct.
against you. People on the ground, of course, are already flying with the, accusations that Wetangula must have something to do with the death of the other lawyer. I mean, it's something we cannot avoid to talk about.
It is,
in the context of what is happening politically.
You'll have to be quick because we're out
within
of
the
time.
insecurity problem in your own county, which has been on and on for
David,
so
we
long.
have had many, many incidents of insecurity. The governor of Bungoma is the one who called me to inform me of this unfortunate incident. I have sent condolences. I have
You started the
requested,
show by sending
yes.
condolences.
And I stood in the Senate yesterday and asked the government to explain why this happened, what investigations they're taking, and to bring those who are involved to justice. And I'll be in Bungoma this weekend,
There is this,
and I'll address this issue.
yeah, this issue has been
what
going
I
on.
want to
The
caution-
attacks, I just want to ask you this. The
Yes.
attacks have been said to be political,
Yes.
that they are either instigated by the two competing politicians, which is yourself and Musikari Kombo. What is your...
Even
yeah,
when the
that-
governor was here, he alluded to that.
Yeah,
kind of-
that these
Who
are
is
political.
saying
The governor was here.
What is
Who
it?
is saying it's political?
People-
It is Combo and Eugene Wamala who started it, that it's political. As a lawyer with an
I mean,
open
Even
mind,
Governor
besides
of
Combo
Bungoma-
and
I,
Eugene,
as a lawyer with
a lot
an
of
open
talk
mind,
in Bungoma that these
I
attacks are
have
political.
sent word to the ground through the media that in a situation such as this, you actually jeopardize the cause of justice by drawing unhelpful conclusions.
Right.
Let them investigate. Let them find who attacked this lawyer, who is in fact my neighbor. You know my home. He's hardly 1.5 kilometers from my home. Who has attacked this lawyer? And who attacked many people like Mzee Nyongesa,
Right.
like the women and children who were hacked to death in Mukwa, in Mayanja, in Kikwechi, Mzee Masinda at Nalondo, the village where I was born, who while having dinner at 8 in the evening, people walked in, hacked him to death, and walked out to death. We have seen no prosecution. We want to see, one, the intelligence gathering doing its job, the police making arrests, the police prosecuting. Nobody in this country, nobody is above the law. And anybody who is culpable in any incident
Yeah.
of lawlessness
As
must
senator
be
of this
dealt
county,
with.
as
Yes.
senator of this county,
That's a
you
final
definitely must have a finding of your own of the cause of these attacks and this insecurity.
Remember,
What is
David,
it?
that I've even gone with the Deputy President, the Inspector General of Police to Bungoma to address these issues of insecurity. We have a resurgence of insecurity in Bungoma that is inexplicable.
Your governor
And
thinks
I
it's
have-
The
political.
governor said it's politics.
The governor,
Some people there want to make him look like he's a failure.
you're not saying that it's political, it's very easy. You have to put it on the table. And I've said, if it's political, get the political players and prosecute them.
Well, you're supposed to be
Yes.
one of them.
It is very easy to point fingers at people. I have said it, Udwak, and I'll say it here. If I did anything against the law, I'm not above the law.